Picture this. You're 7 months pregnant, struggling to afford prenatal vitamins, living in a studio apartment the size of a closet. Your ex-boyfriend, the father of your unborn child, texts you on Valentine's Day asking to meet at an upscale restaurant to talk about the baby. You think maybe, just maybe, he's finally ready to step up and be a father. Instead, you walk into a nightmare you'll never forget. The entire restaurant is decorated with roses and just engaged banners. Your ex is there with his new fiancée, his boss's daughter, and both their families celebrating their engagement. And then, in front of everyone, he announces loudly that you're a desperate ex trying to trap him with a pregnancy, and that the baby probably isn't even his. His new fiancée pulls out her phone and starts filming your breakdown for entertainment. His mother calls you an embarrassment and tells you to leave before you ruin their special night. You run out crying, mascara streaming, heart shattered, thinking your life is completely over, but then a sleek black car pulls up. A stranger steps out, a Korean man in an expensive suit with cold, dangerous eyes. He knows your name. He saw everything that just happened, and he makes you an offer that will change your life forever. Get in the car. Let me help you make him regret every word he said tonight. This is my story. The story of how the worst Valentine's Day of my life became the catalyst for the greatest revenge and the greatest love I could ever imagine. This is the story of how a powerful stranger became the father my daughter deserved, and how the man who abandoned us ended up losing absolutely everything. What happened next? You'll have to stay until the end to find out. But I promise you, this story will shock you, satisfy you, and maybe even make you believe in justice again. Before we begin, do me a huge favor. Drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from. What city, what country? I love knowing where my viewers are tuning in from all over the world. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you never miss stories like this one. Trust me, you're going to want to see how this ends. Now, let me take you back to that terrible night when everything changed. The champagne glass slipped from my fingers before I even registered what I was seeing. 7 months pregnant, wearing the nicest maternity dress I owned, I stood frozen in the doorway of Romano's, the restaurant where everything fell apart. Marcus had texted me that morning. Need to talk about the baby. Meet me at Romano's, 7 p.m. It's important. I thought maybe, finally, he was ready to step up. Be a father. Take responsibility for once in his miserable life. Instead, I walked into my worst nightmare. The entire back section of the restaurant was decorated with red roses and heart-shaped balloons. A just engaged banner hung across the wall. Marcus stood there in a crisp navy suit, arm around a blonde woman in a white dress. Jessica, his boss's daughter. Both families surrounded them, champagne flutes raised, faces glowing with joy. Then Marcus saw me. His face changed. That smirk I'd once found charming twisted into something cruel. He raised his voice loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. Everyone, I want you to meet Maya, my desperate ex who's been trying to trap me with a pregnancy. He laughed, actually laughed. The baby probably isn't even mine. The room went silent. Every single person turned to stare at me, at my swollen belly, my tear-filled eyes, my hand gripping the doorframe for support. Jessica pulled out her phone and started recording. Oh my God, this is wild, she giggled. Zooming in on my face, Marcus's mother, Catherine, stood up. Her pearl necklace caught the light as she pointed at me. You are an embarrassment. Leave before you ruin our special night. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't think. The waiter approached, awkwardly asking if I needed help. I ran. The February air hit my face like a slap. I stumbled down the restaurant steps, mascara streaming down my cheeks, one hand cradling my belly protectively. My baby kicked, as if asking what was wrong. Everything, I thought. Everything is wrong. How did I get here? 3 months ago, Marcus told me he wasn't ready to be a father. that the pregnancy was bad timing. He'd moved out of our apartment the same week, blocking my number, refusing to respond to emails. I'd been surviving on my salary as a medical receptionist, living in a studio apartment the size of a closet, eating ramen because that's all I could afford. And now I knew why he'd left so fast. Jessica, his promotion, his new life that I leaned against the cold brick wall, sobbing so hard I thought I might be sick. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb, expensive, tinted windows, the kind of vehicle that screamed money and danger in equal measure. The back door opened. A man stepped out. He was Korean, maybe early 30s, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my rent. Sharp jawline, dark eyes that seemed to see straight through me, hair styled perfectly despite the wind. He moved with the kind of confidence that made people step aside without being asked. Maya-chun. His voice was calm, but carried an edge that made my spine straighten despite my tears. I nodded, confused and wary. How do you know my name? Get in the car. It wasn't a request. Now, every survival instinct I had screamed at me not to get in that car. But I was broken, humiliated, and frankly too exhausted to care if this stranger kidnapped me. At least it would be different from the nightmare I was currently living. I slid into the back seat. The interior smelled like leather and expensive cologne. The man settled beside me, maintaining a respectful distance, and knocked twice on the divider. The car pulled away from Romano's, from the scene of my destruction. My name is Daniel Kim, he said, studying my face with unnerving intensity. I was having dinner inside when I saw what happened. Fresh tears spilled down my cheeks. Great. Another witness to my humiliation. That man, Marcus Harrison, is he the father? Daniel's jaw tightened as he asked. Yes. My voice cracked. He left me 3 months ago when I told him I was pregnant. Said he wasn't ready. Then 2 weeks later, I saw his engagement. Announcement on social media to Jessica Morrison, his boss's daughter. Tonight was supposed to be about discussing custody or child support or something. Instead, I couldn't finish. The memory of their laughter, the phone recording my tears, Catherine's disgusted face, it all crashed over me again. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was cold enough to freeze fire. And he humiliated you. Publicly. On Valentine's Day. While you're carrying his child. Why do you care? I asked, suddenly suspicious. You don't know me. No, he agreed. But I know injustice when I see it. And I know what it's like to watch someone destroy something precious. The car stopped in front of a quiet lounge, the kind with no sign, just a discreet door and a bouncer who nodded at Daniel like he was royalty. We walked inside to find it completely empty except for a bartender who immediately disappeared into the back. Sit, Daniel said, gesturing to a leather booth. Talk to me. Tell me everything. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the fact that this stranger had shown me more kindness in 10 minutes than Marcus had in months. But I told him everything. I told him about meeting Marcus 2 years ago at a hospital charity event. How charming he'd been. How he'd pursued me relentlessly. How I'd fallen hard and fast. I told him about the positive pregnancy test, Marcus's immediate withdrawal, the way he'd ghosted me like I was nothing. About struggling to afford prenatal vitamins. About working double shifts while my ankles swelled. About crying myself to sleep wondering how I'd raise a baby alone. Daniel listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable, but his eyes growing darker with each detail. When I finished, he leaned forward. Did you love him? The question surprised me. I did once. Now I just want him to take responsibility. To acknowledge this baby is his. To help support. What if I told you I could make him regret every word he said tonight? Daniel's voice dropped to something dangerous and promising. What if I could make him publicly acknowledge that child, apologize to you, and ensure you and your baby are financially secure for life? My heart raced. How? Why would you? He slid a business card across the table. Embossed, expensive, Just a name and phone number. No company. Think about it. Call me when you're ready. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my cramped studio apartment, Daniel's card burning a hole in my pocket, replaying everything over and over. The humiliation. Marcus's laugh. Jessica's phone recording my breakdown. Catherine calling me an embarrassment. But also Daniel's words. I could make him regret everything. At 3 a.m., I picked up my phone and called the number. He answered on the first ring, voice alert like he'd been waiting. Maya, I'm ready, I whispered. Whatever you're offering, I'm ready. Meet me tomorrow. Same place. 6 p.m. The next evening, I sat across from Daniel in that same empty lounge. This time, he had papers spread across the table between us. Here's what I'm offering, he said, voice all business. I will ensure Marcus Harrison publicly acknowledges your child. I will make certain you and your baby are financially secure for life. Medical care, housing, education, everything covered. In return, there's one condition. My stomach tightened. What condition? Daniel met my eyes directly. You let me into your life. Completely. I become your protector, your provider. And when people ask who the father is, he paused. You say it's me. The air left my lungs. You want me to lie? I want to be the father your child deserves. Marcus abandoned you both. I won't. His intensity was terrifying and comforting simultaneously. Biology doesn't make a father. Choice does. Presence does. Love does. But why? I demanded. Why would you do this for a complete stranger? Daniel's expression darkened with old pain. Because I know what it's like to lose everything that matters. The contract Daniel presented was thick, official, slightly terrifying. My hands shook as I read through it. The terms were clear. Daniel would be listed as the baby's father on all official documents. He'd provide a luxury apartment, full medical coverage, a monthly allowance of $5,000, and a trust fund for the baby. In return, I agreed to let him be present during doctor appointments, at the birth, and in the child's life, as circumstances allow. One clause made me pause. Protection protocols, with subsections about security measures, restricted movements, and bodyguard assignments. I have enemies, Daniel explained when he saw my hesitation. If you're connected to me, even on paper, you need protection. That's non-negotiable. What kind of enemies? My voice trembled. The kind that don't ask questions before acting. He didn't elaborate. Maya, I need you to understand what you're agreeing to. This isn't just about revenge on Marcus. This is about entering a different world entirely. I thought about my studio apartment with the leaky faucet, my empty refrigerator, the medical bills piling up, the way Marcus had looked at me tonight like I was trash. I picked up the pen. Where do I sign? Daniel watched me sign each page, his expression unreadable. When I finished, he slid another document across the table. One more thing you should know. Jessica's father, Richard Morrison, owes me $2.3 million from a failed investment I financed. This situation just became personal in a very useful way. The smile on his face was cold enough to freeze my blood. I'd just made a deal with someone far more dangerous than I'd realized. And I didn't care. The next morning, movers arrived at my studio apartment. Mr. Kim sent us, the head mover explained. We're to pack your belongings and transport them to your new residence. 3 hours later, I stood in a penthouse apartment that belonged in magazines. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a kitchen with marble countertops, a bedroom bigger than my entire previous apartment. The nursery was already partially set up with a crib that probably cost more than my car. Daniel arrived that afternoon with bags from stores I couldn't normally afford to walk past. Maternity clothes, he said simply. Everything in your size. I had my assistant consult with a stylist. Daniel, this is too much. It's the baseline minimum for my family. He said it so matter-of-factly that I couldn't argue. You have a doctor's appointment tomorrow at 2 p.m. Dr. Sarah Park, the best OBGYN in the city. A car will pick you up at 1:30. Hannah will accompany you. Hannah. On cue, a woman appeared from the hallway. Tall, muscular, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. I'm your security, she said in a no-nonsense tone. I go everywhere you go, Hannah continued, her expression serious but not unkind. I looked at Daniel. Is this really necessary? Yes. His tone left no room for argument. You're under my protection now. That means following my rules. Non-negotiable. For the first time since signing that contract, fear crept in. What exactly had I agreed to? That evening, Daniel took me to dinner. At Romano's, the exact restaurant where Marcus had destroyed me. Same table, same view. The staff's reaction when they saw Daniel was immediate and terrifying. The manager rushed over, practically bowing, apologies tumbling from his mouth. Mr. Kim, we had no idea you'd be dining with us tonight. Daniel cut him off with a look. This is Maya. She'll be dining here frequently. Ensure she receives the best service. I stared at Daniel as the manager scurried away. You own this restaurant. I do. His smile was predatory. I bought it yesterday. Daniel's first move against Marcus was surgical. 2 days later, Marcus called me. His voice was panicked, aggressive. What did you do? What did you tell people? I don't know what you're talking about. I genuinely didn't. Daniel hadn't told me his plans. My job, Marcus screamed. They're firing me. Morrison Consulting just terminated my contract. Did you send someone after me? Despite everything, shock rippled through me. Marcus, I didn't. Bullshit. You did something. Or told someone something. This is your fault. For the first time in months, I felt something other than sadness. I felt power. You humiliated me in public while I was pregnant with your child. Did you think there wouldn't be consequences? You vindictive bitch. I hung up on him. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From satisfaction. Daniel called an hour later. I assume Marcus contacted you. What did you do? Richard Morrison owed me money. Substantial money. I called in the debt with a condition: fire Marcus Harrison, or I liquidate his company. Richard chose his business over his future son-in-law. Daniel's voice was calm, almost bored. Marcus will never work in this industry again. I've made certain of that. You destroyed his career. I didn't know how to feel about that. He tried to destroy you. I'm just getting started. Daniel paused. Do you regret this? Because if you want me to stop. No. I interrupted, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. Don't stop. I heard satisfaction in his silence. The next day, I understood what Daniel meant by just getting started. The video went viral overnight. Jessica's recording from Valentine's Day, the one of me crying, Marcus mocking me, Catherine calling me an embarrassment, somehow leaked online. But it came with context. Text overlays identified me as 7 months pregnant, Marcus as the father who denied his child, and Jessica as the other woman filming for laughs. The internet exploded. Hashtag Justice for Maya trended nationally. People dug up Marcus's social media, Jessica's influencer accounts, even Catherine's country club membership. The comments were brutal. Imagine being this cruel to a pregnant woman. She's filming someone's trauma for entertainment. Disgusting. The mother is just as bad. That whole family is toxic. Jessica's Instagram, which had 200,000 followers, became a war zone. Her sponsorships dropped within hours. Her follower count plummeted. She posted an apology video that only made things worse. People called it insincere, self-serving, narcissistic. Marcus's LinkedIn was flooded with messages calling him a deadbeat, a coward, worse. He was recognized in public, people yelling at him in grocery stores. Catherine's country club kicked her out after members saw the video and demanded her removal. I watched it all unfold from Daniel's penthouse, Hannah standing guard, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and disbelief. Did you do this? I asked Daniel when he came by that evening. The video was already public. I simply ensured it reached the right audiences with the proper context. He studied my face. Do you feel guilty? I thought about Catherine's phone call that morning, sobbing, begging me to make it stop, as if I controlled the internet's wrath. No, I said honestly. They humiliated me publicly. Now they understand how it feels. Daniel smiled. Good. Phase 2 begins tomorrow. Phase 2 was a dinner party at Daniel's private estate. I didn't even know he owned an estate until the car drove through wrought iron gates into a property that looked like something from a movie. The house was massive, modern, surrounded by manicured gardens despite the February cold. You invited Marcus here? I asked, anxiety spiking. Marcus, Jessica, and Richard Morrison, under the guise of discussing a business resolution. Daniel helped me out of the car, one hand protective on my lower back. They're desperate to fix this. They'll come. Inside, the dining room was set formally. Crystal glasses, fine china, candles. I wore one of the designer maternity dresses Daniel had bought, my hair professionally styled, looking and feeling better than I had in months. When Marcus, Jessica, and Richard arrived, their faces went through identical transformations: confusion, recognition, horror. Marcus's face drained of all color. What is this? Dinner, Daniel said smoothly, playing the perfect host. Please sit. They sat because they were trapped and they knew it. Throughout the meal, Daniel was gracious, polite, terrifying. He asked about their day, complimented Jessica's dress, discussed business with Richard, all while I sat beside him at the head of the table, visibly pregnant, visibly thriving. Finally, over dessert, Daniel dropped the bomb. Maya and I have decided to raise the child together. I'll be listed as the father. Legally. Publicly. Marcus exploded. That's my child. Daniel's expression didn't change. Is it? Because on Valentine's Day, in front of an entire restaurant, you said it probably isn't even yours. So which is it, Marcus? Make up your mind. I was angry. I didn't mean. Daniel slid a document across the table. Termination of parental rights. Sign it, and I'll forgive Richard's debt and end the social media campaign. Refuse, and I'll destroy all of you. You can't do this, Marcus whispered. I already have. Marcus signed. His hand shook so badly he could barely hold the pen, but he signed. Every page. Every line. I watched the man who'd claimed to love me, who'd promised me forever, give up his own child to save himself. Any remaining love I had for him evaporated like morning fog. When it was done, Daniel had the document notarized by a lawyer who appeared from another room. Richard, Jessica, and Marcus left without another word, broken and defeated. I sat in silence after they were gone, processing what had just happened. You okay? Daniel asked softly. I watched him choose himself over his own child. My voice sounded hollow. How do you come back from knowing someone's that weak? You don't. You just move forward. Daniel poured me sparkling water. Maya, I need to tell you something. I had Marcus's DNA tested without his knowledge, got a sample from a business meeting. The baby is biologically his. But biology means nothing compared to choice. I looked at this man who was basically a stranger, who'd inserted himself into my life, who'd dismantled Marcus's entire existence in less than a week. Why are you really doing this? Daniel was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. When he spoke, his voice was raw with old grief. I was engaged once. She was pregnant with my son. My business, my enemies, it made her a target. She was killed in an attack meant for me. I never got to meet him. He looked at me, really looked at me. I can't bring them back. But I can make sure no child grows up without a father who chooses them. I can make sure you never feel abandoned again. I understood then. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about redemption. The baby shower Daniel threw me was obscene in its luxury. Held at a private venue, invite only, with celebrity guests I recognized from TV and business elites whose names I'd only seen in Forbes. The theme was Korean-American fusion, honoring both cultures beautifully. Flowers everywhere, a custom cake, gifts that made my head spin. Daniel's mother flew in from Seoul. She was elegant, warm, and immediately took my hand. "My son has told me much about you," she said in accented English. "You are brave, strong, good mother for my grandchild." "The baby isn't," I started. She squeezed my hand. "Baby is family. Daniel chooses you. That makes you family. That makes baby my grandchild. Blood is not everything." I cried right there in front of everyone. The shower made the society pages. Photos of me and Daniel, his hand on my belly, guests toasting us like we were a real couple. It was a power move, publicly claiming me and the baby as his. Marcus saw the photos online. So did Catherine. So did everyone who'd witnessed my humiliation. Catherine called me hysterical. "You're erasing us. That's our grandchild." For the first time, I felt nothing but cold clarity. You had a chance to be a grandmother. You called me an embarrassment instead. Daniel's mother flew in from Seoul and held my hand through my Braxton Hicks contractions. "She's earned the title. You haven't. Maya, please." "Goodbye, Catherine." I blocked her number. That evening, Daniel's business partner, Minho, pulled me aside at the shower. His face was serious, concerned. "Daniel is a good man, but he's also dangerous. The people he's destroyed for you won't forget. Watch your back." The warning should have scared me. Instead, I felt strangely safe. Daniel's protection wasn't paranoia. It was necessary, and I was grateful for it. The threatening letter arrived 3 days later. Plain envelope, no return address. Inside, a single typed line: "You took everything from us. We'll take everything from you." Hannah found it when screening my mail. Within minutes, she had Daniel on the phone. Within an hour, Daniel was at the penthouse, his expression colder than I'd ever seen it. "Pack a bag," he said. "You're staying at a secure location until we identify the sender." "Daniel, maybe it's just. Maybe nothing. This isn't a game, Maya." His voice was sharp, frightened in a way that frightened me. "Someone threatened you. That means they threatened my child. I don't take chances with family." The safe house was luxurious, but isolated. A house in the mountains, guards everywhere, no neighbors for miles. I spent 2 days there, anxious and bored, while Daniel worked to trace the letter. He found the source, Marcus's younger brother, Tyler, who blamed me for destroying the family. Daniel went to handle it personally. He didn't tell me what he did or said in that meeting. But Tyler left the city the next day and never contacted us again. When I asked Daniel about it, he simply said, "I protected my family." That's all you need to know. The possessiveness in his voice should have worried me. Instead, it made me feel safe in a way I'd never felt with Marcus. I was starting to realize something dangerous. I was falling for Daniel Kim, and I had no idea if he felt the same. I went into labor 3 weeks early. Daniel was across the city in a meeting when Hannah called him. He broke every traffic law getting to the hospital, arriving just as they were prepping me for delivery. "You came?" I gasped between contractions. "Did you really think I wouldn't?" He took my hand, and I squeezed so hard I probably broke bones. He didn't flinch. Labor was brutal. 17 hours of pain, fear, exhaustion. Daniel stayed the entire time. He fed me iced chips, wiped sweat from my forehead, whispered encouragement in Korean when English failed him. When the baby finally came, a perfect, screaming, healthy girl, the doctor asked who would cut the cord. I looked at Daniel, tears streaming down my face. "You do it." His hands shook as he cut the cord. The nurse cleaned the baby and placed her in Daniel's arms first. He stared down at her with such pure wonder, such fierce love, that my heart cracked open. "She's perfect," he whispered. Then he looked at me. "You're perfect." When the nurse asked for the father's name for the birth certificate, I didn't hesitate. "Daniel Kim." Daniel broke down right there. This powerful, dangerous man cried holding a newborn who wasn't biologically his, but was completely, totally his in every way that mattered. "I'll protect you both," he promised her in Korean. Always. An hour later, Marcus somehow found out about the birth. He showed up at the hospital demanding to see his daughter. Daniel met him in the hallway. I don't know what was said, but Marcus left pale, shaking, and never contacted us again. When I asked, Daniel simply said, I told him the truth. She's not his. She never was. We named her Rose Jinshin Kim. Daniel's mother cried when she heard the Korean middle name. My own mother, who flew in from Atlanta, held Rose and called her my beautiful grandbaby, without any of the drama Catherine had brought. It felt like a real family. Chosen, built from ashes, but real. Catherine found our address somehow and showed up 2 weeks after Rose's birth. She begged to meet her granddaughter, tears streaming, apologies tumbling out. I stood at the door holding Rose, this woman who'd called me an embarrassment now groveling on my doorstep. You're not her grandmother, I said calmly. You're a stranger who was cruel when I needed kindness. Leave. Please, Maya. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Choices have consequences. Goodbye. I closed the door. Daniel, who'd been watching from the living room, approached slowly. How do you feel? Powerful, I admitted. Is that wrong? No. He smiled, and something in his expression made my breath catch. I'm proud of you. Those words, I'm proud of you, broke something open inside me. No one had said that to me in years. Marcus certainly never had. That night, after Rose was asleep, I found Daniel in the kitchen. We'd been living together for months now, co-parenting, building routines, becoming a unit. But we'd never addressed the obvious tension between us. Daniel, I started, then lost my nerve. He turned, saw something in my face, and crossed the kitchen in 3 strides. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's right, actually. That's the problem. I took a breath. I think I'm falling in love with you. Daniel's expression shifted through several emotions too fast to track. Surprise, hope, fear, desire. Maya, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. I stepped closer. You've been there for everything. The pregnancy, the birth, the 3 feedings. You hold Rose like she's the most precious thing in the world. You've given us everything and asked for nothing. How could I not fall for you? Daniel cupped my face gently. I've loved you since the night I first held Rose. Watching you become a mother, fierce and protective and beautiful, I couldn't help it. He paused. But I needed you to want me too. Not just need me. Want me. I want you, I whispered. He kissed me then. Soft, reverent, like I was something precious and breakable. We made love for the first time that night, gentle and emotional, and I felt like I'd finally come home. 3 months later, Daniel proposed. Not with a contract this time, but with a ring. On one knee, in front of Rose, who gurgled happily from her bouncer. I'm already her father and your partner, Daniel said. Let me be your husband too. Not because of obligation or revenge, but because I love you and I want forever with you both. Yes, I said through tears. Yes, yes, yes. We married quietly at the courthouse, just us, Rose, and Daniel's parents as witnesses. No big party, no spectacle, just a family, real and chosen and fought for. On our wedding night, Daniel told me the full truth about his past. I'm connected to organized crime, he said quietly. Korean syndicate. It's how I have the resources, the connections, the power to do what I did to Marcus. But I've been transitioning to legitimate business. I want Rose to have a father she's not ashamed of. I should have been shocked, terrified, but I just kissed him. I know who you are, all of you, and I love you anyway. Marcus spiraled after we got married. Unemployed, abandoned by Jessica, who'd broken off their engagement to focus on rebuilding her brand, Marcus started drinking heavily. He created fake social media accounts to stalk my pages, seeing photos of Rose, his daughter, calling another man daddy. It broke something in him. One night, drunk and desperate, he showed up at our house. Daniel was out of town on business. Hannah was my only protection. Marcus screamed in the driveway, demanding to see Rose, crying about his stolen daughter. Hannah called the police while I stood inside with Rose, heart pounding, watching this man I'd once loved completely fall apart. The police arrested him for trespassing and violating the no-contact agreement. In court, the judge looked at Marcus's history, the abandonment, the public humiliation, the signed termination of rights, the stalking, and sentenced him to mandatory rehab and 2 years probation. Marcus left court broken, defeated, barely recognizable. I felt a flicker of pity. Then I remembered Valentine's Day, his laugh, Jessica's phone recording my tears, Catherine's disgust. The pity died. I wasn't responsible for his choices. I was only responsible for mine. And I chose to move forward without looking back. Daniel's father passed away suddenly 2 months later. The funeral in Seoul was elaborate, traditional, filled with business associates and family members I'd never met. The will reading happened the next day. Daniel's father had left him everything. The legitimate businesses, the properties, the investments. Billions of dollars. But there was a condition. The heir must be married and have a child. Daniel squeezed my hand. He knew. The whole time. He knew what he was doing, pushing me toward you and Rose. A cousin, Jiho, stood up angrily. This is ridiculous. That child isn't even blood. Your wife is an outsider who trapped you with another man's baby. Daniel's expression went arctic. Finish that sentence and you'll regret it. Jiho challenged the will, claiming Rose wasn't blood, and therefore Daniel shouldn't inherit. The legal battle was brutal. Daniel's lawyers produced the paternity test showing Marcus's biological connection, then Rose's amended birth certificate listing Daniel as father. She's legally mine, Daniel said in court. And more importantly, she's mine by choice. That's what matters. The judge agreed. Jiho lost. But his threat, this isn't over, haunted me. 2 weeks later, I was shopping with Rose, now a curious toddler, and Hannah when a van tried to grab us. Hannah fought like something inhuman. She got Rose and me into a secure car, but she was injured in the process. Knife wound to the shoulder, bleeding badly. Daniel arrived at the safe house like an avenging angel. His fury was cold, controlled, absolutely terrifying. The attackers were traced back to Jiho, who'd hired them to eliminate the outsider and her child. Within 48 hours, Jiho was arrested for attempted kidnapping, conspiracy, assault. The family ostracized him completely. Daniel's influence ensured Jiho would spend the next 20 years in prison. But the attack changed something in me. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I refused to be. Teach me, I told Daniel that night. Self-defense, situational awareness, everything Hannah knows. I won't be helpless ever again. Daniel looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, we'll train together. We became a team in a new way. Partners in protection, in parenting, in building a life that couldn't be torn down by weak men or vengeful relatives. I started a foundation for single mothers facing abandonment and abuse. Daniel funded it completely. It became national news. Former victim becomes advocate for abandoned mothers. The irony wasn't lost on anyone, especially Marcus. Marcus, watching from his court-mandated rehab, saw me on TV. Poised, powerful, happy. He was allowed supervised internet access, so he saw the foundation launch, the media coverage, the interviews where I talked about overcoming abandonment. He called me for the first time in over a year. Maya, his voice was raw, broken. I saw your foundation. The work you're doing. I'm so sorry. For everything. I was silent, processing. I was a coward, Marcus continued. I abandoned you when you needed me most. I humiliated you to make myself feel big. I chose my ego over our child. His voice cracked. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know I'm sorry. Okay, I said simply. That's it. Just okay. What do you want, Marcus? You want me to tell you it's fine? It's not fine. You can't apologize your way out of abandoning your child. You signed away your rights. You chose that. I know. He was crying. I know I did. And I regret it every single day. But I want to do something right. I want to contribute to Rose's college fund. Not much, I don't have much, but something. As a silent benefactor. Would you accept that? I discussed it with Daniel that night. It's $10,000, I told him. His entire savings. No note, no contact. Just money for Rose's future. What do you want to do? Daniel asked. I thought about the broken man Marcus had become. About whether he deserved redemption, whether Rose deserved to know someday that her biological father cared enough to contribute something, anything. Accept it, I decided. Not for him. For Rose. But he stays out of our lives. No contact, no visits, nothing. Just the money. Done. We accepted the contribution. Marcus remained a ghost, a biological footnote in Rose's story, but nothing more. Daniel was her father. In every way that mattered. Rose's first word was Appa, Korean for dad. She was 18 months old, sitting in Daniel's lap during breakfast, and she looked up at him and said it clearly, Appa. Daniel froze. Then his face crumpled, and he started crying, holding Rose like she was the most precious thing in the universe. I took a photo, Daniel crying happy tears, Rose giggling and saying Appa over and over. Later, I posted it to my foundation's social media with a caption, to the man who chose us when he didn't have to and loved us when someone else wouldn't. Thank you for being Rose's Appa. The post went viral. Comments were overwhelmingly positive, supportive, celebrating our chosen family. Marcus saw it. I know because he closed all his social media accounts the next day. He'd finally accepted that he'd lost everything that mattered. 3 years after that Valentine's Day nightmare, we celebrated a new Valentine's Day. Daniel surprised me by renting out Romano's, the same restaurant, same table. But this time, it was decorated beautifully. Our family and friends were there. Rose, now a confident toddler, ran around showing everyone her new shoes. Daniel gave a speech that made me cry. 3 years ago, I watched a strong woman get torn down by a weak man. Today, I'm standing next to a warrior who rebuilt herself, and I'm the luckiest man alive because she let me help. I kissed him in front of everyone while Rose yelled Appa, and our friends cheered. It was healing. Full circle. Perfect. Outside the restaurant, Catherine stood on the sidewalk. She'd seen my social media posts about the dinner and come hoping to see Rose. A waiter delivered her note to me. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed you to know. I read it, felt a pang of something. Not guilt, just acknowledgement, then crumpled it up. I wasn't interested in the closure they wanted. I'd already moved on. We had 2 more children over the next few years, twins, a boy and girl. Daniel transitioned his businesses completely into legitimate enterprises. The criminal connections faded into history. My foundation went international, helping thousands of single mothers. I became a voice for women facing abandonment, using my story to empower others. Rose grew up confident, bilingual, fiercely loved. She knew Marcus existed biologically, but never called him father. Daniel was Appa. That was enough. One afternoon, when Rose was 6, I received a message from an unknown number. It was a link to Marcus's obituary. He'd died of liver failure, alone, estranged from everyone. I read it, felt a brief sadness, then closed the message. His chapter had ended long ago. Mine was just beginning. That evening, I found Daniel in the kitchen. The twins were asleep. Rose was reading in her room. It was quiet, peaceful, normal. I got a message today, I said. Marcus died. Daniel turned, searched my face. How do you feel? Sad, I guess. Not for me. Just sad that he died alone. Sad that he threw away everything for his ego. I paused. But mostly, I feel grateful. Grateful that he left. Because if he hadn't, I never would have met you. Daniel pulled me close. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is the best thing that ever happened. They danced in the kitchen with no music, just them, just this moment. A family built from ashes, stronger for it. The story ended where it began, with choices. Marcus chose ego over love, image over responsibility, comfort over courage. I chose strength over bitterness, growth over stagnation, Daniel over Marcus. Daniel chose us. Every single day, he chose us. And that made all the difference. 5 years after that terrible Valentine's Day, my life looked nothing like I'd imagined. I stood on a stage at the United Nations, giving a speech about my foundation's global impact. Daniel and Rose sat in the front row, Rose holding her baby siblings, all of them beaming with pride. 5 years ago, I was humiliated, abandoned, 7 months pregnant, and terrified. I told the audience. I thought my life was over. But it wasn't over. It was just beginning. I talked about Daniel without naming him, the stranger who'd offered help when no one else would. About building a life from nothing. About the power of chosen family. The speech went viral, was shared millions of times, inspired countless women to leave toxic situations and start over. Catherine saw it from her small apartment in another state. She'd lost everything. Her social standing, her friends, her family. Marcus's death had broken her completely. She wrote another letter, this one longer, more detailed. A genuine apology acknowledging every cruel word, every dismissive gesture, every moment she'd chosen her own pride over kindness. I read this letter carefully. Then I wrote back. Not forgiveness. Catherine hadn't earned that. But acknowledgement. A simple note. I hope you find peace. That's all I can offer. Catherine never wrote again. But sometimes she'd see photos of Rose online, now 7 years old, beautiful, thriving, and she'd think about the grandmother she could have been if she'd chosen differently. Regret was her constant companion. Meanwhile, my life was full. The foundation had chapters in 12 countries. I'd written a book about my experience that became a bestseller. Daniel's businesses were thriving, completely legitimate, employing thousands. Rose was in 2nd grade, fluent in Korean and English, top of her class. The twins were in preschool, already showing their distinct personalities. It was normal. Beautifully, wonderfully normal. One Saturday afternoon, we went to the park, just a regular family outing. Marcus's brother Tyler was there with his own kids. He saw us from across the playground and froze. Tyler watched his niece, because Rose was technically his niece, playing with her siblings, Daniel pushing them on the swings, me laughing at something Rose said. He saw what could have been his brother's family if Marcus hadn't been such a fool. Tyler approached slowly, hands visible, non-threatening. Maya. I turned, recognized him, immediately tensed. Daniel was beside me in seconds. I'm not here to cause trouble, Tyler said quickly. I saw Rose. She looks happy. She is happy, I said firmly. Good. That's good. Tyler looked at Daniel, then back at me. I'm sorry. For the letter, for everything. My brother ruined his life with his own choices. I was wrong to blame you. Apology accepted, I said simply. But we're done now. Please leave us alone. Tyler nodded and left. Daniel watched him go. You okay? Yeah, I am. I smiled at my family, my husband, my children, my life. I'm more than okay. I'm happy. That night, after the kids were asleep, Daniel and I sat on our balcony overlooking the city. Do you ever regret it? Daniel asked. Getting in my car that night? Signing the contract? All of it. I thought for a long moment. No. You saved me, Daniel. Not for Marcus. I would have survived that. But you saved me from becoming bitter. From raising Rose alone and angry. You gave me a family, a purpose, a life worth living. How could I regret that? I didn't save you, Daniel said softly. You saved yourself. I just gave you the tools. Then we saved each other. They sat in comfortable silence, hands linked, watching the city lights twinkle below. In another part of the city, Jessica Morrison, now Davis, she'd eventually married someone else, scrolled through social media, and saw photos of my family. She thought about that Valentine's Day 5 years ago, about filming my breakdown, about how funny she'd thought it was. She didn't think it was funny anymore. Jessica had spent years trying to rebuild her reputation. The viral video had destroyed her influencer career, cost her endorsements, made her name synonymous with cruelty. She'd eventually married Thomas Davis, a decent man who helped her become a better person. They had a daughter now, and Jessica spent every day trying to teach her kindness, the kindness she'd lacked. One day, she saw a job posting for my foundation. Entry level, minimum wage, probationary. She applied, expecting nothing. I called her personally. I saw your application. I understand if you don't want to hire me, Jessica said immediately. I was terrible to you. I don't deserve. Everyone deserves a second chance, I interrupted. But you'll have to earn redemption. Entry level, 6-month probation, and you'll work directly with women who've been abandoned. You'll hear their stories. You'll understand the damage that cruelty causes. If you can handle that, the job is yours. Jessica took it. For 6 months, she listened to women tell stories like mine. She saw the damage she'd contributed to in those moments of thoughtless cruelty. She became one of the Foundation's best counselors because she understood exactly what it meant to be on the wrong side of empathy. I never became her friend, but I gave her a chance to be better. That was enough. Meanwhile, Daniel's family had fully accepted me and Rose. When Daniel's cousin got married, Rose was a flower girl, treated like any other Kim family child. At the reception, an elderly aunt approached me. You know, when Daniel first brought you home, many people doubted. They said you were using him, that he was foolish to claim another man's child. I stiffened. The aunt smiled. Those people were idiots. You were the best thing that ever happened to our family. You made Daniel happy again after years of darkness. You gave us Rose. You brought light back. I hugged this woman I barely knew, overwhelmed with belonging. This was family. Real family. 10 years after that Valentine's Day, Daniel and I renewed our vows. It was a big ceremony this time. We'd earned the right to celebrate publicly. Rose was 13, the twins were 8, and I was pregnant again with our 4th child. The ceremony was beautiful, blending Korean and American traditions. My mother and Daniel's mother stood together, crying happy tears. Friends from all over the world attended. During the vows, Daniel spoke directly to Rose. 10 years ago, I made a choice to be your father. It's the best decision I ever made. Being your Appa is my greatest honor. Rose, now a poised teenager, hugged him crying. You're the best dad anyone could ask for. At the reception, I gave a speech. 10 years ago, I thought my life was over. I was humiliated, abandoned, broken. But that night led me here, to this man, to this family, to this life. The worst Valentine's Day of my life became the catalyst for the best decade I could imagine. I looked at Daniel. You saw me when I was invisible. You chose us when someone else walked away. You loved us into wholeness. Thank you for being the man who stayed. The room erupted in applause. Later that night, as the party wound down, Rose approached me. Mom, can I ask something? Always. Do you think about Marcus? My biological father. I chose my words carefully. Sometimes. Not often. He's a part of your story, Rose. But he's not your father. Daniel is. But if you ever want to know more about Marcus, about that part of your history, we can talk about it. Rose thought for a moment, then shook her head. No. I'm good. Appa is my dad. That's all I need to know. I hugged my daughter tight. The next morning, Daniel found me on our balcony, watching the sunrise. What are you thinking about? He asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind, hands gentle on my pregnant belly. Everything. And nothing. Just how grateful I am. For what? For a stranger in a black car who decided to help when he didn't have to. For choosing us. For loving us. For being everything I needed when I didn't even know I needed it. Daniel kissed my temple. I'm the grateful one. You let me be a father again. You gave me a reason to be better. You made my life mean something. They stood together as the sun rose over their city, over their life, over the family they'd built from ashes and choice and fierce love. Somewhere, Marcus's grave sat unvisited in a cemetery. His family had long since scattered, his name mostly forgotten. But my family thrived. Rose grew up strong and confident. The twins were happy and healthy. The new baby would be born into a home full of love. My foundation helped thousands of women every year. Daniel's businesses employed and supported countless families. We built something meaningful, something lasting. The story that started with humiliation ended with triumph. Not because of revenge, though that had been sweet, but because I chose to build something better than what was taken from me. Because Daniel chose to be the father a child deserved. Because we both chose each other, every day, over and over again. Choice. That was always the difference. Marcus chose wrong. We chose right. And that made all the difference in the world. If this story resonated with you, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that subscribe button. Seriously, don't just think about it, actually click it. Because I share stories like this every single week. Stories about justice, redemption, love, and people who refuse to stay victims. Stories that will make you feel something real. And drop a comment below telling me, what part of this story hit you the hardest? Was it Maya standing up to Catherine? Daniel becoming Rose's father? Marcus losing everything? Or something else entirely? I read every single comment, and your feedback shapes the stories I tell next. Also, where are you watching from? I love knowing my viewers are from all over the world. New York, London, Lagos, Seoul, Sydney. Wherever you are, comment your location below. Let's build a community of people who believe in justice and second chances. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's been abandoned, humiliated, or made to feel small. Sometimes people need to hear that the worst moment of their life might just be the beginning of their best chapter. Subscribe, comment, share, and remember, sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that ever happened. The key is choosing to build something better. I'll see you in the next story. Until then, choose wisely, choose bravely, and never let anyone make you feel small.